Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.
From Buffalo Toronto Public Media, this is What's Next, an hour dedicated to amplifying the voices of marginalized and underrepresented communities across Western New York and Southern Ontario.
We cannot erase, we cannot reform, we cannot make things better if we're uncomfortable having tough conversations,
Absolutely.
if we're uncomfortable talking about race.
What's Next carries forward our mission to engage in meaningful conversations about race, equity, and the shared concerns that deeply affect Buffalo's East Side and beyond.
Don't stop. Make those families part of your life. Their lives are part of yours. Don't stop.
Together, we dive into the real issues, striving for understanding, connection, and change.
In the suburban area, everywhere, we must work and teach our children.
Welcome to What's Next on WBFO. I am your host, Ekua Mends-Aidoo, president of Clementine Gold Group, and we are joined with Michelle Sawyers, the new YWCA of Western New York CEO. So super excited to have you join us. Hello, how are you?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well. So really excited to chat with you about your new role and position and just get to know you, right? You're a new CEO for the YWCA. What does that mean to you? Jumping into that.
You know what? It means legacy.
Okay.
You know? It means opportunity. It means just new beginnings. It's something that I never imagined. My career has been in nonprofit and in higher education. And I have always been that one who has been behind the scenes. And I've liked being behind the scenes. I enjoy doing good work and supporting the overall mission and the vision of whatever organization I'm affiliated with. And so now this is a different role where I'm out in the front a little bit more than what I'm used to. Okay. And I tell people that I am an introvert. They don't believe me, but I am. And so I can fool you to believing that I'm an extrovert. So it's a different opportunity. And I'm excited to be a part of the journey of the organization that I'm affiliated with now, the YWCA. Rich legacy, 155 years in the community, serving women, serving children. And so I get to contribute to that. And I'm excited about that.
And so 155 years, I mean, talk about legacy, that's huge, right? It's been a long time that the organization has existed. And so can you just give a little bit of insight about, you know, what is the YWCA? Who are you all? And what your mission really is? Yeah,
thank you for that question. I get asked that question quite a bit. Many people know the YMCA. You know, they have a wonderful song that helps them out quite a bit. We don't have a song. Maybe I should create one. I don't think anybody wants to hear that, though, because I can't sing. But it's an organization that has been around for 155 years. We started about 1874. It started by some women who were looking to create a place for women and young girls who did not have a place to stay. And so if you think about 1874, society was completely different, and women being independent, not having a father or a husband to look after them, was completely new, and it was different. And so it started as a boarding house. And what was, I guess, a part of that from the very beginning was independence, empowerment. It was about equity, access, opportunity, all of those things. And over the years, it grew to expand resources, to provide opportunities for people to not only have empowerment in the ways of which they can sustain their lives, but also expanding in services, an orphanage, so that for children who did not have a place, they had a home. And then growing in terms of looking at equity in terms of voting rights, social justice rights, things for the homeless, housing for seniors. It has expanded over quite some time to be able to serve the community in the ways in which the community needs support.
Yeah. Which is huge, right? When you think about that time frame and that time period, right? So you said 1870.
Absolutely.
Up until 2025. And so that's a long legacy of folks, getting together and really positioning the organization in that way. And so can you just talk a little bit about, Western New York, right? The presence in Western New York in terms of YWCA. What does that look like? And just talk a little bit more about the mission here locally.
Sure. So over the years, the YWCA has had a presence started in downtown Buffalo.
Okay.
And has had additional offices throughout. What's interesting and what people really don't realize is that the YWCA of Western New York covers Buffalo and the first ring suburbs.
Okay.
So it is not just Buffalo, it is Amherst, Cheektowaga, Lackawanna, expanding into Williamsville. We have a large footprint. The next closest association is Niagara Falls.
Okay.
And so that means that we have the ability to be able to serve a large population here within our community and beyond. We're located on the west side of Buffalo. We're in Black Rock, about a block away from Buffalo State University. And what's interesting about our location there, our current building is in Schoolhouse Commons. It was a former school building, School 42.
Okay.
Interesting story. When I first started the role and I was in the neighborhood, I was going to get my watch fixed around the corner. And someone asked me, the person who was helping me, he said, well, where is the YWCA? I said, it's around the corner, Schoolhouse Commons. He said, you mean School 42? Yeah. So he was schooling me on the neighborhood that I found myself in at this point in time. But the presence in the community is what's important. And the fact that we are able to be diverse, that we are able to meet the needs of those who are there and beyond, that the neighborhood changes and we change with the neighborhood, that there is a large immigrant and refugee population that is located on the west side of Buffalo. But in addition to that, we have a senior living facility, so we are supporting seniors 62 years of age or older. Also, we have the Native American Community Center that is in our building. That's another completely different demographic that we are able to collaborate with and support. And so I think that the way that the organization is showing up is multifaceted because the community is multifaceted.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think about even the community changes, I know we've talked about, we're becoming a plurality. There's being a shift in terms of demographics, in terms of even our community, right? So within the city of Buffalo, I know it's 53% people of color and now 47% white. And so these shifts are happening with new Americans who are moving into the community. And so when you think about, the connection, right? You talked about diversity and really highlighting how inclusive the organization is and framing that. In the mission, it talks about like anti-racism and really doing this work of equity. And I just want to get some insights around, what your personal philosophy as it relates to that and what ties you to that work.
Yeah. So I think that now in this day and age, that conversation is very important. Equity shows up in a lot of different spaces, and we are giving voice to it in ways in which we have never done before. As a woman of color, I have my own experiences with equity and inequity. As a person who has, and also coming from a gender perspective, there's a level of inequity that we have to deal with as well. And so the YWCA has a rich history of being on the front lines to champion those causes of social justice, to be able to speak out, to create just communities, to be able to give a voice to those who do not feel empowered to speak up for themselves. It's a privilege for us to be able to stand on that legacy and that history, but also to be able to address the changing times that we see happening currently. We just experienced a historic election.
Yeah.
And we have been seeing a lot of challenges that have come up in the way of womanhood and what defines health and personal health. And how can we support and advocate for the marginalized individuals in our community, the underrepresented individuals in our community. How can we be a champion and a beacon for hope in those spaces and talk about the issues that impact women in a way that we haven't seen before? In some ways, it harkens back to an older time. It seems very relevant today that we're having conversations about having the power to make decisions for yourself that impact you, that we are looking at how can we gain access to doors that have been closed before, that glass ceiling that is there that still hasn't quite been broken yet. These are all very real topics that not only impact the current generation, but the future generation. How are we creating, opportunities and laying a foundation for those to not only build on what we've done, but advance the cause a little further? Yeah.
And you talked about the generational aspect of that, which I think is really important to highlight, right? An organization that has started back in 1870, and the issues that were happening then. Yeah. And when you reflect and think about some of the issues that we're still faced with, as women, as people of color, I don't know, in terms of how much change, obviously there's been a lot of change, but how much change still needs to happen, right?
Right.
And so when you think about it from a generational standpoint, even in legacy, what do you hope to be able to accomplish as the new CEO in this position and role for the next generation?
I think it would be helpful to be able to bring a new perspective. I'm not the first person of color to lead the organization. I'm actually the second.
Okay.
But if you think about 155 years and I'm only the second,
right,
that speaks volumes.
Right.
But I think that it's an opportunity for us to be flexible. It's an opportunity for us to be open and to respond to the needs of the community from a responsive standpoint as opposed to a prescriptive standpoint, telling individuals what they need and this is what we're going to do for you, as opposed to listening and saying, how can we help? I think that that's what's most important. It's really not about me as an individual. It's more about what it is that I can do to help others, because I know that the story of the YWCA is one in which I think every woman can see herself in that story. And I know that only for, if it was not for the grace of God, I might be in a position to where I might need the support and the help that the organization provides. And so I'm very mindful of that. Times change, economies change, leadership changes, but our humanity and what connects us and what binds us, that stays the same. And I think that's where the true value is. And it really does me no good for me to get to the top and not open up the door or reach out my hand to bring somebody up with me. So when I think about that next generation, I think about that. I think about how can the organization be poised to usher in the new levels of leadership. How can we invite in that next generation with those new ideas? How can we position ourselves to be around for another 155 years? Right. That is something that we have to be extremely proud of. It is a milestone in and of itself. And what that says is that we have weathered challenging times. We have weathered storms, and we have been able to come out on the other side and still be very present in the community. And we are a safe space, and we're a trusted partner and a friend. And so I appreciate that about the organization. So that's when I think about the legacy of the next generation. What can I leave for them to build on?
I love that. And so you have your own past history and, experiences. And so I want to kind of lean into what you're going to be drawing from, right? Your previous roles that you've held and just previous experience. So what does that look like? Give us a little bit of insight into, your past and how that might, impact what you're doing now.
I appreciate that. So my career has spanned about 15, 20 years in nonprofit and higher education. And so at my core, I am I stand on the front lines when it comes to advocating for access, and education is extremely important to me. It has changed my life. I would not be in the position that I am today if it was not for my education. And so I take that and I hold that very near and dear to my heart. And I think about, so I was in higher ed. I was Dean of Student Support Services at Medaille University. It was college when I was there. Okay. And it was a great time. I was able to support those freshmen who were coming in just 2 months before they were in high school, and now they're on a college campus. And it was helping them figure out what their next steps would be. And I remember what it was like for myself. My path was a non-traditional path. I'm Buffalo native, Buffalo public school educated. I started off when I graduated high school. I did not have a plan. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was smart. I knew I was smart, but I didn't have a plan. And so many young people leave high school and they don't have a plan. But I had a mentor. And so I'm very grateful for those who have poured into me. And my mentor said, "What are you doing next?" And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "Meet me on Saturday at the library." So it was a group of us that we met on Saturdays, and we were doing SAT prep. And we would be at different Buffalo libraries. Sometimes we would be at college libraries, but we would get together. We would prep for the SATs. And I didn't do well on the SATs at first. Okay. And that's not uncommon. We know that it's a culturally biased test. It's not something that is easy to be able to master. And, you know, quality of education varies, right? And experiences vary. So I didn't do well at first. And so I started at ECC. And so that tagline of start here, go anywhere, I am that, because I started there, and I was able to graduate with 2 degrees there. And I had a wonderful experience. I started to participate in sports. So I was on the track team, and I still get very nostalgic when the Olympics come on. I think that I can do it. I can't, but I think that I can. So I was on the track team, and I really opened up and blossomed there. And then I transferred to Syracuse University. Okay. So I was at Syracuse, and I was there as an independent student. I was non-traditional. I was independent. I was paying for it by myself, trying to figure out how I was going to make it. And it was expensive. I was the first person in my family to go away to college. I am a first-generation college student. And so I was there, and it was culture shock, you know, and I was in a new space. I had no sense of awareness and understanding. I didn't have my bearings. It was a different world. Cosby could have got that from me. It was a different world. And so, but I had a hard time. I was there for about 2 years, and I ran out of money. So I said, okay, I'll come back home and I will work and I'll go back. But life happens when you come back home. And as life happened, 10 years later, and I had not returned to school. I had got married at that time. I had 2 children. And, well, actually, I had 1 child at that time. And it was the birth of my son that really made me refocus. And that was a result of my upbringing and knowing that I had someone that I was responsible for. So I said, I'm going to go back to school. So I went back to school. I went to Buffalo State. And I was going to be a history teacher, even though when I was at Syracuse, I was political science because I wanted to do law. So I said, I'll be a history teacher because I was thinking, how can I provide? Okay. And I was there, and I was doing well because your focus is different when you return. For me, it was different when I returned to school as an adult. It was a different level of awareness and perspective that I had. And so I was doing my student teaching, and I said, I don't think this is for me. Okay. So I finished and I received a degree in history. And then I had my daughter. So, but I wasn't going to stop. I returned and I went back I thought about where did I thrive? Where did I feel most like myself? And it was in that learning environment. I returned to Buffalo State for a master's in higher education, student affairs administration. And I received my master's there. And at that point in time, I was doing very well, but I was trying to figure out what my next would be. And when you talk about a story of perseverance and overcoming, I was at the head of my class, and I was that one that people thought she would get a job right out of college. Okay. That did not happen.
Okay.
And so I was applying, and I was not getting into that door that I wanted to open so desperately. And but I was still encouraged, and I was optimistic. I did not give up. And I applied to an organization called Hillside Family of Agencies, which is headquartered in Rochester. And they had a program called Hillside Work Scholarship Connection. And it helped young people grade advance, graduate, and identify a post-secondary path. And I said, okay, well, this fits. And from there, I entered back into the workforce. And let me just pause right there. For women, when you leave the workforce, it is very difficult. I left as a mother, and when I was trying to get back into the workforce, it was not easy to get back into the workforce because I had a 10-year gap. What were you doing in those 10 years? In some ways, it didn't translate that I was raising my children, that I had went back to school. It was a 10-year gap. It was not easy to get back into the workforce. But everything happens for a reason. I believe that. And so I started at Hillside, and the rest is history. Within 2 years, I was director of operations. I was the second in command, if you will, for that particular affiliate for 4 or 5 years. And then from there, I went on to Madai, and I was there for about 4 or 5 years again. And I started as director of Say Yes to Education. It was a new initiative that was brought by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Say Yes Buffalo was the backbone organization. I started that way. And when I left, I was Dean of Student Support Services.
Wow.
I was an adjunct while I was there, and I was teaching. And then my next step was the Buffalo Urban League. And I was chief program officer for the Buffalo Urban League. I really enjoyed working there. I was responsible for 6 different divisions, from education to housing, economic development, workforce development, small business. And I enjoyed my time there. And then the YWCA came knocking, and here I am.
That amazing journey. And you highlighted a couple different things that I kind of want to tap into.
Sure.
First and foremost, I also am a former track athlete. I threw at UB. So we got to know, what events did you do?
2, 4, 4x4. I was the anchor.
Okay.
Yeah.
The anchor, which is a big role. Finishing strong there, right?
Yes. That's the theme there.
And then the second part, you talked about, women, right? So leaving the workforce, entering back in. And I think, when I have a lot of friends who are mothers, and navigating households, and the amount of experience and skill it takes to do so, right? And so just kind of want you to lean in a little bit on that side, especially as you lead the YWCA. And that's probably a lot of stories, that you hear about, right?
Yeah.
Like women and entering the workforce, and, from that perspective. So, how did you draw on that strength, in your journey to this point?
So that's an interesting question. And so I think about 2 things. When I'm taking a position and I'm thinking about myself as an individual, I also think about how that's going to impact my family.
Okay.
And my children, what is it that they will see, and what is it that they're going to miss out on because of the decisions that I'm making? It's a balance, and I struggle often. And I remember we would all be sitting around the kitchen table. They would be doing their homework. I would be doing my homework. You're going to make me get emotional. Don't have me get emotional. But it was a time in which we did it together.
Okay.
Right? And now my son is a junior at Canisius.
Wow.
And his work ethic is something that he attributes to me because that's what he's seen. My daughter, she has opportunities that I could not even imagine. And I'm glad that she can be fearless and she can be bold with what it is that she's trying to do, because the limits that were on me are not on her. And she's seen me as her mom just overcome and persevere. So when I was considering taking this opportunity for the YWCA, they asked me, why are you interested in taking this role? And so I say this for women. I think my answer surprised them, but I told them that I took it for me. Because as a mother, there's so many things. You put yourself last and you put so many others in front of you. As a woman, oftentimes we put so many other things in front of us. We give so much of ourselves over, whether we are providers, caregivers, whatever our role may be. We tend to do that a lot, and we forget ourselves. And so I didn't want to do that. And this was the time for me to step in. There are opportunities that I did not take because it was going to take me away from my children. And they needed me to be present in that time. But when this opportunity came, my son at the time was 20 and my daughter was 15. That was the hardest part, because the mother that she gets is not the same mother that my son got. And how could I reconcile and make it okay? So we made the decision. We talked about it as a family. I let them know that this is an opportunity that I was thinking about doing. They supported me, and we decided to do it. And so now there are nights when I'm home late. Now there are times where my time is split between competing priorities, where I may have to do something professionally and I may have to have someone step in. The things that are important, I show up for, because family is important. But my daughter, if I do it right, she will have a foundation and wings. There will be a time where she is going to leave and have her own journey. When that happens, I still have to have an existence and an experience for myself. I have to have something for myself. And so this is what's happening. So she gets a CEO mom.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. And so we're going to take a short break. This is
Sure.
What's Next. We are with Michelle Sawyers, who is the new CEO of the YWCA of Western New York. We'll be right back.
Our mission at Buffalo Toronto Public Media is to serve our local community. And on WBFO, we do that by keeping you informed. We bring you important perspectives from your neighbors on what's next.
It's cultural heritage tourism. People go and they travel different places to learn about history and lived experiences that only took place in that area. Oftentimes you may have people in certain positions that don't understand the value of cultural heritage tourism.
And we investigate issues in our community, such as racial disparities in traffic stops.
The data breakdown by council district shows that black people are stopped disproportionately to their population in all 9 districts. Lovejoy District leads the pack in terms of those disproportionate stops. Just 37% of the district's population is black, yet black motorists account for almost 70% of stop receipts issued there.
This is public media.
From the fringes of the mainstream to the local music you love. Listen to WBFO The Bridge Monday through Thursday, 8 p.m. to midnight on WBFO 88.7 or your smart speaker.
Looking for an award-winning original series to binge? Buffalo Toronto Public Media has something for everyone. Check out Brave Spaces, Compact History, and Let's Go at WNED.org or on the BTPM YouTube channel.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we will work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email what'snext at WBFO.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And we're back with What's Next. My name is Ekua Mends-Aidoo. I am the host today, and we're talking to Michelle Sawyers, the Western New York YWCA CEO, newly appointed CEO. And so we've gotten to get to know about you, right, in terms of your background. And I just want to tap into, what you're doing now, right, as it relates to the organization, what your plans and priorities are as it goes into 2025.
Yeah. So I'm excited about the future. I really am. There are great things on the horizon for 2025 for the YWCA. And so I'm building on a legacy that's already there. We talked about that at the top of the conversation. And so some of that legacy is our programming. We have been known for childcare in the education space. So many things that the public doesn't know is that we have a presence not only in Buffalo, but in Cheektowaga and Cleve Hill and Maryville. And so we have a early childhood center that starts at 6 weeks of age to 4 years of age at the Schoolhouse Commons location right in Buffalo. It is accessible. It is walkable. It is on bus lines. It is it's been a staple in the community for 20 years or more at that location. We also have drop-in child care centers in the unified court system. So that is family court and city court. And so if you are there conducting any business whatsoever in the family court building or city court building and you have your child with you and you would like to drop them off so you can go and be focused on what it is that you need to take care of, that is free child care. So drop your child off. We have staff at both locations that are there to support the community and support the public. The next thing that we have is 21st Century Grants. This is our education space. And so we have 21st Century Grants in Lackawanna School District. So that's in the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. That is after school programming. And we have a presence in the school also at some of the locations full day. That is enrichments, that's academic supports, that's recreational support, that is Saturday academies. It is holistic student support services, holistic cultural and social emotional support. That is the same at Maryville. That is a new location for us. We just started partnering with them this year. So we're excited to build our presence there at that particular school district. And still, we are serving after school. And busing is available at both of those locations. Another thing that's great, we provide a meal for after school. So the children have had a full day in the school building, but when they are a part of our after school programming, they are also fed there. And so that helps parents who work late, get out of work at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. They know that the homework is done, the child has been fed, and they can transition into the next phase of the day. At Cleve Hill, we have a partnership with the United Way. So we have full service schools. And so we have staff there located in the building that are truly co-curricular support. That is social, emotional, and co-curricular support. And we have been partnering with them for several years. And so we're really happy about that. We also have a presence at Westminster Community Charter School. That is also after school programming. That's 21st Century as well. And so we're excited about the work that we do with Westminster. We have started some new things, and we have some financial literacy programming that will be coming to the Lackawanna City School District. We were able to partner with Bank on Buffalo as well as AT&T. And so we have technology that has been donated. We have funds and resources that were also donated for us to purchase additional equipment as well as curriculums and software so that we can teach the kids about money management. But it's not just the children. This is something that will be open to families as well. And they can learn about the different resources that are available in the banks, the different types of accounts that are available, and money management skills. So we're excited about that. That's something new. We also have another set of programming that's going to be taking place is STEM programming for girls. So we received a grant for that as well. And so that is something that will be taking place in February. Girls in Tech. You know, it looks good, sounds good. We want to open up opportunities for girls to be exposed to non-traditional spaces and those underrepresented spaces. And there will be coding and there will be AI exposure and things of that nature. So we're looking forward to that. So those are some of the new things that we have on the horizon in terms of programming. And we're looking to do even more. Stay tuned for what's happening next.
That's awesome. It sounds, you've hit the ground running. You got a lot of things about to happen and continuing to happen and grow from there. And so when you think about after school programs and having an opportunity on that side, I know a lot of parents talk about the difficulty. I think about summer camps and after school. And so what do folks need to do in order to get in touch with you all and get involved or maybe get some more support around that?
So we have some amazing partnerships. So the first thing that I would say that you can always contact our offices. And we also have our website that's available. And so you can look at our social media as well. So those are 3 different ways in which you can get in contact with us. We have summer programming that we partner with Say Yes Buffalo. So we have summer programming every summer. We have about 70 kids from across the city of Buffalo who are able to come and, have an amazing fun-filled summer with different recreational activities and learning opportunities as well. And, we have after-school programming that is also at our Schoolhouse Commons location, and that is for children that are 5 to 12 years of age. Okay. And so busing is also available there. So if they are at their home school and they need a location for their children to come after school, they can be bused. Staff is there to pick them up right off the bus, bring them in. They're also fed there as well. And then we have our low-income housing for seniors. So we have a 64-unit building for low-income seniors, 62 years of age or older, and they are able to live and have a different type of community environment. They're able to age in place, which means they don't have to go to a retirement facility or anything of that nature. Their caregivers can come on site and support them in their apartments. We're also combating senior isolation. So we have activities that the seniors are able to participate in. We partner with the City of Buffalo and whatever senior services are available there. So there are field trips, if you will, that they're able to take. And we also have activities where they're able to garden. Every Tuesday is crosswords. So sometimes I step into the room and I will put a couple words up on the board. I try to help out. I leave on a high note. I don't want to, but I like to participate in that. And they like to engage in those activities. So it's really holistic in a way in which we are trying to support the community internally and externally.
That's amazing. And so you've already mentioned a couple of key partnerships that you currently have. I know you had mentioned before we actually started about a new partnership with FJC, and I just wanted to tap into that a little bit and get some insight.
Absolutely. And so as we continue to expand our footprint, part of the way that we do that is with intentional collaborations. And so in October, we partner with the Family Justice Center to bring awareness to domestic violence. And we had the Week Without Violence. And we focused on the different types of abuse, but specifically financial abuse, which is something that many people don't think of, that is a form of abuse, and that it is it's a stigma. It's isolating. It's about control. If someone controls the resources in the home, you are limited in what you can do and what your options are in terms of looking to change your circumstances. And so that was a great partnership with the Family Justice Center. And we had some videos that were produced that we were able to put on our website, and it's also on their website. They were uploaded on TikTok. One of them received over 10,000 views. Oh, wow. And so we are fortunate to have great partners in that way, because we know that we don't have to do everything. We can partner with other nonprofit organizations that are that is the space in which they thrive, and we are able to elevate not only their profile but our profile, as well as expanding the reach of the message that we're trying to convey to the public. So we're interested in that, and we're open to intentional partnerships. That's something that I think that is very important, and we'll be looking to do more of that in 2025.
So let's lean into that a little bit.
Sure.
When you think about what's next for YWCA of Western New York, what type of partnerships would you be looking, to include, and what type of organizations you think?
Yeah. So I think about my vision board. Okay. And when I can think about the things that I want to bring forth for the organization, not only for this year, but beyond that, I'm thinking workforce development.
Okay.
I'm thinking opportunities for women to have access and equity. Pay equity is something that is it's a challenge. We know that when you look at the different demographics that women are paid about 80 cents on the dollar in comparison to white males. That black women is less than that. It's about 62 cents on the dollar. And Latinx women, it's lower than that. Native American women, it's lower than that. And so we want to lean into that space to where we can create access to opportunity, that intentional career fields can be chosen, and that the different spaces that women see themselves represented in, that they feel comfortable leaning into those different occupations, whether it be nursing or it could be automotive.
Okay.
It could be technology. It could be engineering. There is no limit to what a woman who is determined to rise can do. And that's messaging, that's empowerment.
Yeah.
And that's something that we want to convey and have that open in that way. We also want to look into, we have a parcel of land that we're developing right next to our building on Grant Street that we're looking to create a mixed-use space for children. This aligns with the social determinants of health, and this is with health and wellness, and it will be a space that children can play and be exposed to different types of sports. And so we're looking for it to be soccer field, flag football, lacrosse, field hockey, all the things. And this will be open to not only the children who are coming to have after-school programming and summer programming at the YWCA, but we would love to have intramural opportunities with other nonprofit organizations that are in the community who may not have that type of space available, to give the children an opportunity to benefit from health and wellness and organized recreational exposure.
That's awesome. So you're thinking about all the components that would make for successful programming. And so you said Grant Street, right, where
yes.
this would be located.
Right. So we're located at 1005 Grant Street, and the parcel of land is right next door at 997 Grant Street. So It is, when you pull into our parking lot, you look immediately to the right, it is right there. And so we're in the process of developing that. That is something that we will definitely need support and partnership for.
Okay.
It's an expensive endeavor, but it's something that will benefit the community and benefit the youth. And so it's something that we're looking for partners to help us bring that goal to fruition.
And so that's on the west side.
It is.
On Grant Street. And so maybe some partnerships in that area could be
absolutely
really beneficial too.
Absolutely.
So let's lean into, community engagement and how you plan to really connect to communities that are in the areas that you currently serve in. What does your vision look like for that?
So it's heavily outreach based. And so we want to be able to go into different community centers. It could be partnering with other nonprofits, but to be able to put the word out about who we are, what it is that we do, and what it is that we're trying to offer. And so it's intentional collaborative relationships that we're trying to cultivate. It is definitely showcasing and putting awareness on our social media platforms so that people can see and be exposed to the great things that we do from the comfort of their own homes and their cars, at work, wherever the case may be. And then it also looks like intentional alignment with funders who have a like mission, and they have an initiative to want to align with us so that we can bring new and exciting programming to the community that just supports and benefits those who need the resources that we have and the services that we want to provide.
That's awesome. So we're going to take a quick break again. This is What's Next on WBFO, and we are with Michelle Sawyers, who is the new CEO of the YWCA. We'll be right back.
Our mission at Buffalo Toronto Public Media is to serve our local community. And on WBFO, we do that by keeping you informed and connected to your community, whether it's by hearing from a local Black poet about what it was like to move from the inner city to the suburbs on What's Next.
So that emotional change with that culture change combined let me realize that basketball and being physical wasn't enough. I needed a way to figure out my emotions. So the first poem I wrote in the cafeteria of Sweet Home Middle School was Outcast.
Or it's exploring the East Side Garden Walk.
it's wonderful that we're seeing engagement in beautification and sharing gardens, because we believe that we can build more vibrant communities by sharing our gardens, by sharing our stories, and by building real connections between people. We came through as neighbors and cleaned this space out and began plot by plot putting plants in.
This is Public Media.
Discover more with Buffalo Toronto Public Media. From riveting documentaries and live classical music to trusted local news and kids shows, Public Media brings you what matters most. This is Public Media.
You're listening to What's Next, our place to discuss the important issues of our communities of Western New York and Southern Ontario. We want to hear from you. Click on the Talk to Us option in the WBFO app, and we'll work to get your questions or comments on the air. Do you have a story or concern that we should be addressing? Email us using whatsnext@wbfo.org. Together, we'll have the conversations that are needed. This is WBFO, your NPR station.
And this is What's Next. I'm your host, Ekua Mends-Aidoo, and we are with Michelle Sawyers, the new CEO of the YWCA of Western New York. And so, Michelle, I want to talk a little bit about, you're coming into this new role. I'm sure there's different things that might keep you up at night, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you think about different challenges that you will face or have faced as the new CEO, what does that look like for you?
So I feel So I guess the thing that I'm most focused on is doing a good job.
Yeah.
I'll be honest about it. I know that there are many individuals who are depending on me. And so not only do I think about myself, but I think about my team. Mm-hmm. I think about the community and how we're able to support the community. Are we doing it well? Are we showing up in the way in which we need to show up? What can we do better? I think about creating culture. I think about how we can position ourselves to be not only thriving, but to be stable and financially sound. Those are the things. And so, the responsibility is not lost on me at all. It's one of those things where people say heavy is the head that wears the crown. That is true, but you can do all things with support.
Absolutely.
And so I'm encouraged by, the support that I've been able to receive, and I'm not afraid to ask. And that's important.
And as a CEO, I'm sure asking is a big part of your role, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And especially from a funding perspective. And so where do you get your funds currently? And, when you think about the future of the organization, are you having thoughts right now about where that might come from?
Well, we are about 95% grant funded.
Okay.
And so that is a challenge. Grants are based on, what the philanthropic dollars are able to what are their priorities? What are their funding strategies? And it's heavily influenced by the economy. There are a lot of nonprofits in Buffalo, and we are competing for those dollars. What we need is to have an influx of revenue that comes in that is able to sustain the organization, and that we can continue to fulfill our mission and serve the community in the ways in which the community needs to be served. Right. So it is always a need. We are always looking to meet the need. As I referenced earlier in our conversation, some of the services that we provide, we do not charge for it at all.
Okay.
And so there has to be a way for us to continue to do that. And it's our honor and privilege to be able to provide those services. But we need the support from foundations and from philanthropists and those and corporations and that are interested in aligning with what it is that we do.
Yeah, and I think that's always the difficulty in nonprofits is looking for funding that matches, the mission in terms of what you're trying to do, but then also the funder and what they're trying to provide funds and support for. So when you think about, I guess, the future of the organization, if you could wave a magic wand and say, okay, here's a pot of money, what would you do with that and what would that look like?
So every nonprofit is looking for unrestricted dollars.
Right.
And so those unrestricted dollars go for staffing in many cases if it's not covered by a grant. Grants typically cover programs and the supplies that are associated and the costs that are associated with those programs. But there are some positions that the organization needs that are not covered by grants. And so those unrestricted dollars help to build the infrastructure, help to attract the talent that will in turn allow the organization to grow and thrive and expand. So it is a relationship that we need to develop, that we need to maintain, and we look to not only attract talent, but we also take those dollars to expand our programs and services. We would like to do great things, and we would like to be able to evolve with the needs of the community. I've been saying that throughout our conversation because that's at our core. And so how can we do that? Creating new services, creating new programs. And we would like to be able to do that. We have a large footprint, so we would like to have a larger presence in Amherst. We would like to have a larger presence in Kenmore. We would like to have a larger presence in Cheektowaga, Grand Island. This is where we have the ability, and this is where our reach extends to. We would like to have a presence in those communities as well.
And then the demographics, I guess, support the need to expand in those areas as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. And need is not relegated to one zip code versus another. There is need throughout Western New York. And there was a time in which we did have a presence in many of those communities. We would like to go back to where we were and to show up in the way in which that community needs. So in some ways, it's returning home.
Okay. Okay. So looking forward to seeing, what happens on that end as well. And so I want to kind of just shift and talk a little bit about the Power in the W Awards luncheon that's coming up. And so can you just give folks an insight into what that is and what you're planning to do?
Absolutely. I'm excited. Okay. So the Power in the W is a annual awards luncheon that we are launching in March, Women's History Month. It will take place on March 13th. The day after Pay Equity Day. So we want to talk about that as well. But it's an opportunity for us to highlight women who have been working in the community to support the initiatives that uplift not only women, but the larger community. And so we will be awarding some women and acknowledging their efforts. We're excited about that. It will take place at the Admiral Room downtown from 11:30 until 2 p.m. Currently, tickets are available. For the early bird, it's $75 right now for the month of January. And then in February, the price will increase to $100. Okay. All the proceeds, all of the funds that we are able to raise goes directly to programming.
And I know I tried to get some insight into who was being awarded, but we're going to save that.
It was coming. Stay tuned.
How many women will you be awarding?
5.
5. Okay.
5.
Okay. So we can look forward to that.
Yes. And these awards align with the mission of the organization. So they're very intentional. I will tell you that the areas are focused on social justice, financial empowerment, advocate for youth education. Legacy Award. Okay. So these are the things that you can kind of look for. These will be showcasing and women's health. And so it'll be showcasing women who have been doing work in these very intentional areas.
That's awesome. So looking forward to that. And you said March
13th.
13th. Okay. At the Admiral Room.
Yes.
And so, we're coming up to the end of our conversation, but I want to get some insight in terms of, how the Western New York community can really get involved and support your initiatives at the YWCA.
Yes. So, tickets are available, and as well as information is all available on our website. So that is ywca-wny.org. You can also take a look at our social media handles. There are QR codes that are available, and it is easy for you to access those platforms to see who we are and to be able to participate. We will be also sharing our information. We'll be doing some more press around the community. We will be tabling and sharing information about what's coming up next, as well as speaking about the Power in the W. And so, yes, that's something to look forward to.
Awesome. And so I know we started the conversation with legacy and, talking about, your past and how you got to this point. And so when we think about the legacy you hope to leave as a YWCA Western New York president and CEO during your tenure, what does that look like? And what do you hope folks, will be left with after your your tenure?
Wow, that's a very good question. When I think about what people will say and what my legacy will be with the organization is that, number one, that I was a good steward. I want people to feel and know that I committed all of my time, efforts, and energy to work towards supporting the organization in the best way I possibly could, that I believe in my community. This is a way in which I'm able to serve and support my community. I want to be able to look back on and see what my contributions have been able to yield. So that would mean empowerment for young girls and women. I want that landscape to look different. I want to be able to inspire those to dream big and to not limit themselves as to what they think they can do. This, me being a CEO, was not on my list at all. And so I am not an anomaly. I do not intend to be the last. And so my mere presence in this role is something that I hope will inspire others for them to be able to pursue and not limit themselves.
That's amazing. And so measurable impact, we'll end on that note. What should the community look forward to in terms of that?
In terms of measurable impact, we would like to see an increased presence in the education space.
Okay.
We would like to see that we are growing our reach in terms of post-secondary preparation. We would like to see career exploration. So I want you to look to see those things. Increasing the engagement so that the community knows who we are and that they can identify and say, this is where the YWCA is, and this is where I've been able to go and receive help. I want that to be a part of the conversation. Let that be a part of the dialogue.
Awesome. And so I just want to thank you for coming on. This is What's Next. We were joined with Michelle Sawyers, who is the new YWCA of Western New York CEO. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
Support for WBFO and What's Next comes from our members and from Health Foundation for Western and Central New York, where racial and socioeconomic health equity are prioritized. Learn more about building healthier neighborhoods at hfwcny.org.